All right, gentlemen. All right, kings. Welcome back. So, on today's episode, we're going to take a look at a video. It's going to be a longer one because I'm not going to splice it up because it's actually a pretty good video from the China Observer about men are, let's say, China singles equal U.S. population, poor economy, half of Chinese youth fear marriage. Without further delay, let's get into it.
Young people in Shanghai aren't getting married anymore, and no one is having children. Local Shanghainese have multiple properties and assets worth millions, and they are all the only child. Not anyone can qualify to combine with or share their assets. Every local Shanghainese has this mindset, which outsiders can't understand. They believe that if you want to marry them, you need to have equal status and assets, or provide unique, exceptional value. They absolutely refuse to lift someone out of poverty through marriage. Otherwise, they would rather stay single.
Even if the government gave me a wife for free, I wouldn't want one. I'm 42, single, and after working for 10 years, I've saved 600,000 yuan. I live off the interest and refuse to work hard for a woman. You might think I'm extreme, but this is the biggest trend for the next decade. I'm committed to never getting married. If I don't marry, I'm financially free. If I don't marry, I have no weaknesses.
I always find this interesting when you see this from basically the other side of the planet. We're in the West, they're in the East, that women have become so unbearable with their expectations that guys here in the States and in China are just like, you know what? Done. I'm done. And this guy's just telling it the way it is. Without someone to burden me by, I am free. I have freedom to do whatever I want. And this is both like kind of like a little bit of a heartbreaking thing. I mean, it's not breaking my heart, but it's like if I can't get a family or if I can't get a date, then I don't have a family. If I don't have children, I have no need to work a 50-hour work week. I have no need to go into that promotion for work. All I need is the basic ass bare necessities. You know what? I'll go be a cashier. I'll go work fast food. And I'm not crapping on fast food. I did fast food for two and a half or maybe 3 years. You know what? I don't need all the burden and the stress and the responsibilities. I clock in, I do my work, I collect a check, I get out, and I go back home. And it's going to free men that we're going to have generations and generations of man children. And I say that with the utmost respect. It's guys going to be doing whatever they want to do. Who cares what the non-existent wife says? Because I don't have one. I'm playing my video games with my boys online and I'm doing whatever I want. I'm going to the beach. I don't have someone harping on me and we got to go to my cousin's baby shower and then my best friend's wedding and then blah, 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 blah.
If I don't marry, I avoid all high expenses, house, car, social obligations, all high costs that don't benefit men at all. As long as I avoid car loans, mortgages, and the pressure to have children, I can live comfortably on my 4,000 yuan monthly salary.
What I just
Marriage
say?
means a lifetime of toil and debt. So what about my life? Staying single means a carefree life. Marriage traps you in debt and you never climb out. If I get a minor illness, I'll treat it. If it's serious, I'll just let it go and die. By not marrying, not having kids, and not having loans, I'll wake up naturally every day. So, friends, not having a wife and avoiding marriage is a blessing and the best value. If I don't marry, I won't become a bootlicker, and without that, there's no high spending. If I don't marry, I don't need to buy a car or a house, and there's no pressure at all.
He's absolutely right. Even me, I've got my little investments that I've been playing around with, and I can do that because I don't have a family. If I make an investment, I lose some money. Well, all right, whatever. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, it sucks. I want all my investments to go up, but that's just never going to happen. It's just reality of the stock market. But I've dumped almost 23,000 into Nvidia. I didn't have to consult anyone. And what that guy was talking about when he said, if I got a minor illness, I'll treat it. If it's major, then I'll just let it die. That's kind of the way sorry, soda burps. That's kind of the way I see my life. It's, when I'm old, I'll be in the nursing home And one day the nurse will come in going knocking on my door like, "Hey, you didn't take your medicine for dementia because you start flipping off all the little kids that come to visit their grandparents." And then they'll find me and I'll be dead because I crapped the bed. And they're like, "Oh, call his next of kin." "Oh, there's no one." "Okay, throw him in the incinerator." And that'll be the end of me. That'll be my life story. I'll be a little pile of ash that'll fit into a Ziploc bag. No fuss, no muss, no weeping over me, no $4,000, funeral. Just toss me into the ocean. Who cares?
In the video, this 42-year-old man explains why he remains unmarried, reflecting the sentiments of many young Chinese people today. As long as I don't marry, I don't need to go out of my way to please women. I won't be blinded by love, and I won't lose both money and love. Nowadays, you hear about men spending tens of thousands on engagements, only to be accused of rape later. There was even a news story about a man who had 3 children, none of whom were his. I believe that by not marrying, I avoid all the risks of marriage. I don't need to work so hard. I'm always at ease. I urge you, watching this, not to live in someone else's world. Live on your own. Against the backdrop of worsening political and economic conditions, the number of marriages in China has hit a record low, and the number of empty nest youth is rising. According to the Ministry of Civil Affairs website on August 2nd, in the first half of this year, there were 3.4 million marriage registrations nationwide, down 498,000 from the first half of last year, a decrease of 13%. Compared to the first quarter's 1.97 million registrations, it fell by 508,000, a 26% drop. Compared to the same period from 2023, it is down 178,000, an 8.3% decrease. At the same time, divorce rates in China are at an all-time high. In the first half of the year, there were 1.3 million divorce registrations, nearly 40% of the number of marriages. Some people joke that the number of people getting married is low because only so many people want to get married, while the number of divorces depends on the daily quotas issued by the Civil Affairs offices. Actually, looking at the data from the Civil Affairs Office over the years, you can see that the number of marriage registrations in China has been declining for many years. In 2013,
That's gotta be tough, to be a wedding planner, or you make the wedding dress, do the bouquets, all the cake and whatever, and going, our business just declines year after year, and just less people are just not doing it. I mean, imagine how much you'd be freaking out. It's like, I'm making less money, but my bills are still piling up.
there were 13.5 million marriage registrations, but it has been decreasing every year since then, dropping to 6.8 million in 2022, which is only about half of the 2013 figure. From 2019 to 2023, the number of marriage registrations stayed below 10 million for 5 consecutive years. In 2022, the probability of being unmarried among people aged 25 to 29 reached 51%. In other words, more than half the young people of marriageable age were not married. In the same year, the number of single people in China reached 240 million. Based on these numbers, it's predicted that by 2024, this number could exceed 300 million, which is roughly the population of the United States. The phenomenon of young people not getting married is very widespread. Notably, the number of marriage registrations in the first half of this year hit a new low, breaking the record set in the first half of 2022.
For all the gentlemen who don't want to get married, I just wonder, what are they kind of like us, or like us in the West? Are they just like, what? I'll play video games and I'll go rent some affection, some artificial love, if you will, and then they just get on with the rest of the day. I wonder how their like family dynamic is. You meet the parents for dinner. It's like, "Oh, you talking to anyone?" "No." "Oh, you're such a disgrace. Why can't you get your life together?" "Ah, we raised you better." Ah.
Which was 3.7 million. There was a slight rebound in 2023, but the numbers have dropped again in 2024. Overall, with the latest data this year, many so-called Chinese experts have been proven wrong. Last year, the national marriage rate saw its first increase in 10 years, reaching 7.7 million marriages for the year, ending a decade of decline. Some experts thought that China's marriage rate was finally rebounding and that young people were willing to get married again. However, this year's marriage data is disastrously low, directly indicating that last year's uptick was not a sign of rebound, but possibly just the start of a new round of decline. Regarding last year's brief rebound, some Chinese experts added that it was compensatory marriages following the 3-year pandemic. The lockdowns led to a concentrated surge in marriage registrations in 2023, causing the numbers to spike quickly. This compensatory marriage wave is also a significant reason for the sharp decline in 2024's marriage numbers. However, the public aren't buying this explanation. One person posted a video showing the current situation at the Civil Affairs Office, saying that nobody is getting married now, making the Civil Affairs Office the most idle department. Combined with the newly released marriage data, most people feel that young people not getting married has become a trend. The leader of the June 4th Guizhou student movement and artist, Ji Feng, shared with the media that several of his friends' children, now in their 30s, have chosen not to marry. He also mentioned another friend's daughter, who is over 40 and still unmarried, as well as a close friend who is now 43 years old and has no plans to get married. Ji Feng noted that his nephew and niece, both around 25 years old and at a typical age for marriage, have expressed to him that they neither want to marry nor have children. They are open to dating but are not interested in taking the step towards marriage.
I mean, that just sounds like a lot of us in the West. Like, oh, you know what? I don't want to marry someone. I don't want to live with someone. I don't want to pay their bills. I don't need the hassle or the burden of them. But, you know, hey, if someone cool comes around, we can keep it casual, keep it light, keep it fun. It's just so interesting. You know, you could say, oh, it's like the West, all these gold diggers, this 6 foot plus and 6 pack abs and 6 inches and blah, blah, blah. And then even on the East side, it's like, no, same problems. Same problems. Opposite side of the world, same problems.
So, why has marriage, which used to be the biggest industry chain in this populous country, become so unappealing? For most people, economic issues are still the main reason. Once young people get married, they are automatically burdened with the 3 major expenses: mortgage, car loan, and raising children. In short, those without money don't dare to marry, and those with money don't need to marry. The high cost of getting married is directly discouraging most young people. A survey by Renmin University of China showed that in 2023, the average cost of marriage for young people in China was 330,400 yuan, which is more than 8 times the average disposable income of 39,000 yuan, and over 15 times the average disposable income of rural residents, which is 21,000 yuan. And this only accounts for wedding dresses, ceremonies, and other related expenses. Additionally, there is the exorbitant bride price demanded by society. Professor Wen Tie-jun, a senior advisor at China Economy Information Net, mentioned that in many rural areas, the bride price can be 40 to 50 times the per capita GDP. This means that a person would have to save without spending for 40 to 50 years to afford it. Some provinces...
I'm sorry. I gotta save for 40 to 50 years to what? Pay off the family to relieve them of their burden? I mean, shouldn't it be the opposite, that if I'm going to relieve you of your burden, you should pay me, or should give your wife or my future bride on a, heavy discount? Is she still pure? Is she still under the age of 23? Because if no, you better mark that thing on clearance.
With particularly high bride prices ask for 300,000 to 400,000 yuan or more, which, along with wedding expenses, can deplete parents' retirement funds and leave the couple in debt for decades. Many young people have realized that it's less burdensome to stay single. Perhaps just dating is okay, but a hard no to marriage. As a result, the average age of first marriage for men has increased from 25 to 29 years, and for women from 24 to 28 years. The past 3 years of poor economic conditions and massive layoffs have led to a surge in unemployment, causing workers to constantly fear being laid off. Under such survival pressure, who dares to get married without hesitation? Recently, the CCP's media reported that Chongqing, to ease employment pressure on college students, has for the first time facilitated the mass export of fresh graduates to work in the Middle East. According to the Chongqing Daily on July 29th, over 70 recent graduates from universities in Sichuan province were sent to work in Oman through the introduction of a Chongqing state-owned enterprise. This transnational labor cooperation project is promoted by Chongqing Foreign Service Company, a subsidiary of Chongqing Development and Investment Company. The positions offered by Omani companies are mainly technical and reserve departments, providing food and accommodation, with monthly salaries ranging from 12,000 to 18,000 yuan, paid for 14 months a year, and including 2 free round-trip tickets per year. This news has raised concerns about student safety risks.
So 12,000 yuan is $1,681.10 before Social Security and taxes.
Given the general perception of the Middle East as a volatile region, people have expressed concerns about the potential risks, noting that despite the dangers, many people still might go due to the lack of economic prospects in China. They argue that the poor economic conditions at home make taking a gamble seem worthwhile. One person boldly remarked that it's like the 19th century practice of selling indentured servants, with these university graduates being the modern equivalent. They believe that this model might become more common in the future, given the high number of graduates and the severe job market challenges in China, while some countries are experiencing labor shortages. Sung Guoshang, an associate professor at Nanhua University in Taiwan, believes that Chongqing's international employment efforts are just a way to address the current employment crisis. He said that China has been accused of exporting its surplus industrial capacity and dumping goods on other countries. Now its universities are facing a similar surplus capacity issue, with graduates leading an export of talent that disrupts the job market in other countries. Furthermore, he mentioned that China has long encouraged Taiwanese youth to work in mainland China as part of its political strategy, but the fact that Chongqing, a directly administered municipality, can't properly employ its graduates has to send them to the Middle East speaks volumes. In advanced countries, such as Japanese working in the US or Americans in Japan, their pension and labor protections are secured through government agreements. However, in China's case, there's no indication that such agreements have been made to protect the rights, job safety, and personal security of Chinese workers in Oman. So the Chinese government is merely addressing its immediate employment problems without considering the potential future troubles that may arise. Normally, university graduates wouldn't choose to work in the Middle East. It has limited appeal, plus there are safety risks. But even with the potential for war, many graduates are willing to try, indicating the job situation in China is really dire. These graduates are taking risks to build their economic foundation for the future. These students struggling to survive and working far from home have no conditions to consider marriage. A Shanghai resident, Gu Ming, told the media that he graduated from university 3 years ago and started working in a training institution. With a crackdown on the education and training industry, he also lost his job. Fortunately, his parents have salaries and can provide some support. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive. He said he wants to get married, but marriage requires an economic foundation which he doesn't have. The student democracy movement leader, Ji Feng, understands this well. He pointed out that many individuals he knows, including university and postgraduate degree holders, are unable to find jobs and are staying at home, particularly those whose parents hold government positions. He added that a notable number of these young graduates have been jobless for 1 or 2 years. He suggested that the economic downturn has left many struggling to afford basic necessities, leading some to prioritize mere survival over marriage, with finding employment becoming the foremost concern. Economics PhD and freelancer Mr. Zhang believes that with such high unemployment rates and difficult job prospects, especially in small cities and countries where there are almost no job opportunities, how can anyone get married without income? According to traditional Chinese customs, getting married involves hosting a banquet. He mentioned the most critical point. Today's reluctance among young people to marry is the result of the CCP's exploitative economic development strategies and policies. Besides the exorbitant bride prices, buying a car and a house has become a prerequisite for marriage.
God, talk about a stress, and I know I'm not talking a lot, but if I don't have anything to say, I'm not gonna be like, oh, blah 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 blah. But imagine just I got married and now I have the financial burden and expectation and responsibility of getting a car and a house and a pet and a kid, and I got laid off. Just Oh my God. I just see that one guy early in the video, he had it right. It's like, if I get sick, I get sick. You know, without a wife, I am free. I'm without burden and responsibility. That guy, he had it right.
Housing prices have remained high, with properties in some first-tier cities costing up to tens of millions. Combined with high daily living expenses, young people's savings can hardly support them in buying a house in the city. Mr. Zhang went on to criticize the CCP, arguing that it has driven up housing prices through exploitative practices, treating real estate as a pillar industry and inflating its bubble. He suggested that the CCP has effectively converted the future 30 to 40 years of income from the lower classes into today's revenue, describing this short sighted development approach as one that jeopardizes future generations. He also noted that the CCP's economic policies have also led to exorbitant medical expenses, education costs, and pension burdens, contributing to the current trend of young people choosing not to marry or have children. He concluded that high education, high pensions, and high medical costs are all issues that, in a country without any social security, can crush a family individually, let alone all these issues combined weighing on each family. In this light, entering marriage can truly seem like entering a grave. As mainland lawyer Lee said, the economic development model has led to poverty and excessive debt among the people. Young people can't afford to take on these burdens, and their expectations for family happiness are very low. Poor economic conditions can't provide a quality life or happiness. Young people, even if employed, can barely make ends meet, let alone support a family, so they dare not marry or have children, a social crisis China currently faces. Moreover, many young people choose not to marry or have children because they don't want the burden and vulnerability of a family. For example, in the following video, the banner reads, "Whether the children can study well depends on the parents' relocation." In simple terms, it means if you, as a parent, don't agree to the relocation, your child's future prospects are at risk. Such events where parents are coerced into complying with authorities by threatening their children's future are countless in China. For example, during the pandemic control period, a video that went viral showed several community workers in Beijing discussing how to deal with difficult residents who didn't comply with control measures. Their conversation repeatedly mentioned his son is his weakness, indicating their plan to use a child to threaten the parent. Recently, it was exposed that a director from the China Charities Aid Foundation for Children coerced a mother of a sick child into sexual favors in exchange for donations, further proving that exploiting children as a weakness to oppress the lower class has become routine in
Jesus.
China. Under such circumstances, who among the ordinary people would dare to have children? In this situation, the CCP not only strips young people of their dreams, but also deprives them of the possibility of pursuing happiness. Young people not only lack hope, but also face increasing despair. Currently, the side effects of young people not getting married are gradually emerging. The most obvious is the real estate industry, which is buckling under the pressure. Nationwide, new home sales fell by a quarter in the first half of the year, and the sales of the top 100 real estate companies plummeted by 42%. This also directly affected the businesses of jewelry, wedding banquets, cars, and the maternal and child market, as well as the education market, with demand continuously declining. But this is only the beginning. As Sun Guoshan mentioned, it might take some time before the consequences of youth unemployment becomes fully apparent. Many young people already believe that there is no hope for the future, adopting a lying flat attitude towards life. If the spread of this attitude becomes too extensive or accelerates too quickly, it could result in an entire lost generation in China.
See, this is very, very interesting because, you know, when I was a kid, you always heard about exploding population and save the trees and save the rainforest and we're going to be overpopulated and there's going to be too many people and not enough food. And now it's like, no, we have an underpopulation problem. Really, I just wonder how much longer until it really becomes an actual concern. I mean, yeah, you'll hear on the news like, oh, for the third year in a row, birth rates have declined by 1.2% or whatever. I'm just wondering to where people start going, no, we are freaking the f out. There's more people dying than being born. We're having, I don't know, 10,000 people die for every one person that's born. I just wonder where, maybe like 30 years in the future. I mean, I'll be all old and decrepit by then, but it's going to be so interesting to see what this world is going to turn into. Oh, it's going to be a zombie apocalypse because women wanted 6 foot tall men. But hey, they whatever. It is what it is. The less you care, the easier it becomes. Anyways, guys, as always, thank you for coming back and take care and take it easy.